Winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature, one of America's most famous authoresses, Pearl Buck, author of The Good Earth, Dragon Seed, The Living Reed, and numerous other novels of Oriental life. She's collaborated with Theodore Harris on a new book about her own life. As you can see, it's called For Spacious Skies, and we've invited the authors to visit us. Please welcome Miss Pearl Buck and Mr. Theodore Harris. That seemed very strange to say, Miss Buck. Miss Pearl Buck and her collaborator. First time you've had a collaborator that
Yes, because it was on a very special subject. Not just me, you know, but about a good many thousands of other people.
How did this happen to come about?
Well, I think the book was my idea, really. We toured about 87 cities in about 15 months. And it gets rather dull in the back of a car. Miss Buck doesn't like to fly. Forgive me with the airlines.
Oh.
But I do fly, just the same.
We drive, and we pass time with this sort of dialogue game. I write my part of the conversation and read it to her, and she writes her part of the conversation and reads it to me.
Interesting, interesting. How did you two meet here in New York?
Oh, no, we met in Philadelphia, I believe. But that doesn't matter so much, because I was really... this whole thing began in Japan and Korea in 1960 when I was over there making a film. I was invited to Korea by the Korean people, and I had seen these new children in Japan, and when I went to Korea I saw, do you know about these new children?
I know about your foundation.
Yes.
I know
well,
quite well about
these children are an entirely new group of people in the world today, a very big group, and their fathers are American servicemen. And their mothers are the women of Asia in the 7 countries in which our men have been. And they're perfectly beautiful children, and they're being sort of wasted. I didn't, tell you the truth, I didn't want to begin anything new because I have a lot of books to write yet. But, well, I did begin it.
Your foundation is for the placing of displaced children.
Well, no, it's not quite that, because while some of these children are brought to this country for adoption, most of them have to stay in the countries where they're born because there are just too many of them. About 1 man in 10 becomes a father, and you discount up our men and you realize that's quite a large new group in this world. And about half of them die before they're 5 because of the difficulties of their life. But the ones who survive are really beautiful, wonderful people. The eldest now about 18 or 19, and they're still being born, of course, in quite large numbers. And as an American, I can't bear to see them grow up, you know, without any opportunity and no education. They're quite stateless because the Asian people look on them as Americans, because in Asia the children belong to the father, not to the mother.
Didn't realize that.
Yes, they do. And so if you don't have a father, you don't get registered, your birth is not registered. Therefore, you're stateless. They think of them as Americans, and we don't.
Are many of them here in America, Miss Buck?
Some are brought here for adoption, but relatively few can get here.
Approximately how many do you take care of?
Well, we're only 2 years old, isn't it, Mr. Harris?
Just 2 years, and we're educating and supporting about 1,000 children in Korea.
Of course, that's
a little
very
over 100 in Japan so far.
But we've only just begun. And what the foundation is really just a tool offered to the American people as a means of getting to know, doing something about these children.
Why didn't this problem present itself before?
I don't know.
Has it only been since the Korean War?
It's been especially since the Korean War, because it's since our men have been going to Asia, and the situation in Europe is quite different, of course, because the children don't stand out so, but they look very American in these Asian countries. And the whole family system in Asia is such that they are excluded from it. They don't belong to anybody.
You were born here in America, weren't you?
I was the only one of my family.
And then went immediately to the Orient, to China?
When I was 3 months old.
And then when did you leave China?
When I was 40.
Ah.
I was here at college and then went back again.
Were you forced to leave China?
Well, I could see that communism was coming, and I knew I could never live under that rule.
Well, having lived there and knowing the Orientals as you do, you'd be in a fairly good position to predict a little in the sense of what will the future of China be?
Partly what we make it, I suppose.
What we make it? Could you explain that a little more?
Well, I think they'll either be enemies or we might be able to make them friends.
Even under communism?
I think communism is changing,
How so?
moderating people. You see,
Yes, but they're the
communism.
fiercest of the communists.
Yes, but
I've been
Well,
there publicly.
they're old-fashioned about it, is about all, and I think possibly what Miss Buck means is that they will modernize their
with time,
thinking.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's so impractical. Communism. I saw communism come in 1921 into China. We don't realize it's been there so long, and it's so impractical. It's psychologically unsound and economically impossible.
Particularly for the Oriental?
I think for anywhere, it's a curious, impossible, impractical scheme of life. Not based on anything that's sound psychologically.
Are they a gentle people?
The
basically?
Chinese,
Yes.
they're marvelous friends and frightful enemies.
And I think one thing that many people don't know is that they have I hate to use large numbers of people as a they, but so many Orientals have such a funny sense of humor, and we never hear about that.
Oh, they have a marvelous sense of humor, and I think that our men abroad are beginning to realize that the Asian peoples are very human. Of course, I don't think they have to be so human as to produce quite so many children, I must say.
Miss Buck, how... I think I'll use that in my book. Miss Buck, how often do you go over?
Well, I've been, since 1960, I've been in Korea and Japan twice Japan, Philippines and Hong Kong, twice in India. Stayed quite a long time in India. And we're going, Mr. Harrison, now the other members of our staff are going to Korea and Japan in about 10 days. We want to see what's going on with the children. And
Are there homes there for them?
why don't you tell?
Well, most of the children that we take care of are children who are actually living with their mothers. And we enroll them. We use facilities that are already there. We don't want these children set apart from the Koreans. We want them to be a part of Korean society.
And the Japanese.
No segregation.
Well, let me recommend your book, if I may. And I noticed all royalties on this book go to the Pearl Buck Foundation.
Yes.
Which is very nice. Pearl S. Buck and Theodore F. Harris in For Spacious Skies. Are you also writing something at
What
the
do you
moment?
think?
Huh?
What do you think?
Oh, come on, give us a scoop. It's not often you get to
No,
sit and talk
I-
with Pearl Buck.
Of course I write, being a writer above all else. And I'm doing now a novel on modern India. India's fascinating these days, by the way. It's a very exciting place. And then I want to do...
Can you get Louise Rayner for the film?
I wish I could.
Yes.
She was wonderful, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. We'll never forget her.
And then I want to do a book about a novel on modern China. I have a marvelous story based on fact of a woman who, well, I can't tell the story exactly, but she manages to live in a very capitalistic way because she has a marvelous restaurant. And the time that the communist leaders are the least communistic is on the subject of food.
I'm sure. When that's written and published, will you come back?
Yes.
Thank you, Pearl Buck.
You won't
And thank
forget
you,
our
Mr. Harris.
children, will you?
I certainly won't. Thank you, Henry Morgan. Jonathan Miller, Arthur Treacher. Thank you all. Goodbye.